Next, we're going to add lives to our game. So first we need a lives text, just like we had our score text. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to find the general section and go to text. I'm going to name this lives text. Hit insert and click somewhere around here. I'm going to make it basically match my score text properties. So I made it size 30 and white. So I'm going to put in lives, size 30, color white, 255, 255, 255. Then I'm going to resize that so that it fits. And then instead of left aligned, I'm going to make the text right aligned so that it can go this way. And I'm going to have the origin be the top right corner instead of the top left corner. And since I put score at 2020, I'm going to put lives also at y coordinate 20. And since my viewport is 854, minus 20 would be 834. Then I'm going to go to my event sheet. And on start of layout, it's going to be pretty close to this one. So I'm actually going to copy and paste that. And then I'm going to go back twice to change the object to lives text and hit next. And then next again because I still want set text. And then just change the words. Lives. And then I'm going to need a lives variable, which I haven't created yet. So I'm going to hit done. And again, to create a variable, you can either right click at the bottom and do add global variable, or you can add using the add button in the bottom right corner, global variable, name that lives. And we'll start with 3 lives and hit OK. So now I can go back to my lives text, set text to lives colon, and this should be the lives variable, and hit done. So now when I run it, it should say lives 3. If for some reason it is not moving the way it's supposed to, click on that and make sure that you have it on layer GUI and not the game layer. Go back to my event sheet. Now I need to actually be able to lose a life. So that's going to be when the monster hits the player. Since there's only one player, I'm going to have the player check for collisions instead of the monster. So hit next. Type COLL for collision with another object, and that's going to be the monster object. Hit done. So now we have player on collision with monster. I want to lose a life, so system, instead of adding like we did with the score, we're going to subtract. So subtract from, type SUB to filter that. It actually brought up variable lives and value 1. That's perfect, so I'm going to hit done. Now I need to also update my lives text. Remember when we added to our score, it didn't update till we added our score text to update. So I'm going to copy my text change up here, paste that underneath where I subtracted from lives. And then when I run that, it's going to look a little weird because I'm going to lose a life when I hit a monster. But, you know, the game keeps going. So instead, I want to reset my layout, which is kind of going to reset the level. So that's going to be a system, but instead of reset, it's actually restart. Restart layout is the command. So now when I run that and I hit a monster, it's going to send me back. Now, if I have a guy that's kind of right there in the middle, it's going to kind of mess that up. So on my layout, I'm actually going to start with that guy off the screen, and I'm going to add a monster destroy to start of layout so that we start with no monsters at the beginning of the level, and then they'll be created as the timer goes off. So I'm going to take my monster destroy, copy that, and paste that inside of on start of layout. So now that guy won't be there, and then once my 5-second timer has gone off, monsters should start coming toward me. And if I get hit, then the level restarts. And you kind of have a little bit of a breather before they come and get you again. But there's nothing that stops you from going into negative lives. So you'll see I have 0 lives here, and then when I get hit, it just goes to -1. So let's go fix that now. So we're going to close this. And we're going to add an event system, and we're going to compare two values. Or, in this case, we can actually do compare variable, which will be a little bit easier than compare two values because you'd have to type it out for two values. So let's do compare variable, then we can choose lives from our list. Instead of equal to 0, I actually want to do less than or equal to 0. That way if you get to negatives, then it would work. If you want your game to keep working when your lives are 0, like you have 0 lives, 0 extra lives, then you would just use less than instead. So I'm going to do that where I can still play the game with 0, and once I die it goes to negative, then we'll have game over. So once that happens, what are we going to do? So I think we should go to a game over screen. So I'm going to go to layouts, and I'm going to make a new layout, and I'm going to add an event sheet for that layout also. And I'm going to call that game over. And you'll see that that game over layout is connected to event sheet 2. So I can take event sheet 2, and I'm going to rename that to game over event sheet for ES for event sheet. And I'm just going to copy my background over to the game over layout. I'm going to have this aligned to cover my layout. This will just be my background. Then I want my score to be on there, so I'm going to take the score text and drag that over. Unlike the other one, I'm going to have this centered instead. So I'm going to just change horizontal alignment to center. If you want to make sure that it's centered on the screen, you can resize it to it exactly at your view, which would be position 0 and size 854. And then I want another text box that says game over. So I'm going to resize this to cover the viewport so that I can see how much space I have to work with. So I'm going to create a new text box, so text text. And I'm just going to put the word game over in it. I'm going to make this one really large, so maybe 100. And then also make that a color that I can see. Making it bold's not a bad idea either. And I'm going to center this. And I'm going to do the same thing with the position. So position X is 0, and then size width 854, so that it's centered. And I'm just going to use my arrow to move that down a little bit. And then I'm going to take my scored text and move that down so that it's not covered up by the game over. So maybe about there. So I really only need 2 events here, and on start of layout. So on start of layout. And the only thing I really need there is to set my score. Since our score is global, it will also be available on this event sheet. So we set our score, so it's going to say score, colon, and how many points you had. And then whatever you want to be the event to restart. So I'm going to copy and paste this text. Change the size. Maybe to like 30, like the score. And change this to press space to restart. Or whatever you'd like for that to be. I was going to put that at the bottom. And then on my game over event sheet, I'm going to need a keyboard event. So make sure I have a keyboard object. So I'm going to add new object type. Go to input and have the keyboard added so that I can add a keyboard on key pressed. Click here, press the space bar and hit OK and hit done, and then it's going to be on the space key pressed. We're going to tell it to go to a new layout. Layout 1, that's our game. Which means back on event sheet 1, when our lives go to 0, we need to go to the game over layout. So that's going to be go to layout game over. The other thing I want to do when I go back to layout 1 is reset all my variables. So that's also going to be a system. So I'm going to reset all my global variables to the default value. So that will reset monster time meter 5, score to 0, and lives to 3. So let's test to see if that works. Okay, I have 0 lives. I got hit, it took me to negative lives, so it sent me to game over. It showed my score, which is 0 because I didn't kill anybody. And when I hit space, it should restart. It gave me 3 lives again and reset my score. So let's try again, this time with 0 points. Okay, this time it gave me 400 points. Hit any other key, click a bunch, move around. None of that does anything except for hitting space to restart, reset my score, reset my lives again. So everything is working okay.